One of the most naturally gifted players the world has ever seen. Not the most disciplined, not the most consistent, not the most decorated, but perhaps the most joyful. This is the story of Ronaldinho, the man who didn't just play football, he danced with it. Before the global fame, before the Ballon d'Or, before defenders were left spinning in circles, there was a skinny kid in Porto Alegre, Brazil. Born Ronaldo de Assis Moreira in 1980, football was in his blood. His father was a former player and shipyard worker. His older brother, Roberto Assis, was a professional footballer who became both mentor and protector. In Brazil, football is more than a sport. It is language. It is survival. It is art. Ronaldinho learned the game not in academies, but on the streets and futsal courts. Tight spaces, hard surfaces, no room for mistakes. Futsal shaped him. It forced him to think quickly, to control the ball in tight spaces, to use deception instead of speed. By the time he was a teenager, people were already whispering about the smiling boy with impossible tricks. But what separated him wasn't just skill, it was imagination. At 13 years old, Ronaldinho scored 23 goals in a single youth match. 23. It sounds exaggerated, it almost feels like folklore. But it was a warning, this wasn't just talent. This was something different. He joined Grêmio FBPA, and even at youth level, defenders struggled to predict him. He didn't move in straight lines. He didn't follow textbook patterns. He would pause mid-dribble. He would look one way and pass another. He would attempt skills most players wouldn't dare try in training. And somehow they worked. In 2001, Ronaldinho made the leap to Europe, signing with Paris Saint-Germain FC. Paris wasn't yet the financial powerhouse it is today. But even then, Ronaldinho stood out. French defenders learned quickly that traditional marking wouldn't work. He wasn't predictable. He would drop deep to collect the ball. He would drift wide. He would accelerate from a standing position. And most dangerous of all, he played with freedom. But in Paris, there were tensions. Managers wanted structure. They wanted tactical discipline. Ronaldinho wanted the ball. Still, glimpses of brilliance were undeniable. The world saw it at the 2002 World Cup. The quarterfinal of the 2002 FIFA World Cup. Brazil versus England. The game was tight. Brazil trailed. Then Ronaldinho stood over a free kick from distance. The angle looked wrong. The position looked too far. Was it a cross? Was it a shot? David Seaman stepped forward slightly. Ronaldinho struck it high and curling. The ball dipped violently under the bar. Goal. Whether he meant it or not is still debated. But it didn't matter. Brazil advanced. Ronaldinho announced himself to the world. He wasn't just a trickster, he was decisive. Brazil went on to win the World Cup. Ronaldinho, alongside Ronaldo and Rivaldo, formed one of the most feared attacking trios in football history. He was only 22. In 2003, Ronaldinho signed for FC Barcelona. At the time, Barcelona were struggling. Financial problems, identity crisis, no direction. Real Madrid were dominating Europe with the Galacticos. Ronaldinho didn't just join Barcelona, he revived them. Under Frank Rijkaard, the team began rebuilding around him, and something magical happened. He wasn't just effective, he was electric. Some players intimidate, some players dominate. Ronaldinho smiled. That smile wasn't arrogance. It wasn't mockery, it was joy. He played like someone who loved the game more than the result, and that joy became contagious. Camp Nou began believing again. He would collect the ball deep, glide past one defender, nutmeg another, spin past a third, and still look relaxed. There was rhythm in his movement. He didn't rush, he manipulated time. In 2005, Barcelona visited the Santiago Bernabeu, Real Madrid's fortress. Ronaldinho produced a performance so devastating that even rival fans stood up. He scored twice. Both goals were masterpieces of pace and control. At one point, he ran from near midfield, gliding past defenders who simply could not catch him. When he scored, the stadium, Madrid's stadium, applauded. That is rare. That is respect beyond rivalry. It was confirmation. Ronaldinho wasn't just entertaining. He was the best player in the world. In 2005, Ronaldinho won the Ballon d'Or. He was 25 years old. He had reached the summit. Barcelona won La Liga. They conquered Europe in 2006, lifting the Champions League. Ronaldinho was the face of football. Nike campaigns, global fame, children copying his Elastico in playgrounds worldwide. But more importantly, he influenced the next generation. One young player at Barcelona watched closely, a teenager named Lionel Messi. Ronaldinho assisted Messi's first professional goal, almost symbolically passing the torch. What made Ronaldinho different from other great dribblers? Improvisation. He didn't rely on rehearsed patterns. He reacted instinctively. No-look passes, back heel assists, elasticos at full speed. He could flick the ball over a defender's head and volley it before it touched the ground. And defenders hated it, because you cannot defend against unpredictability. He wasn't robotic, he was jazz. Every movement felt spontaneous, but brilliance without discipline can burn fast. As fame grew, so did distractions. Late nights, parties, less focus. Barcelona remained competitive, but Ronaldinho's sharpness began fading. He gained weight. His acceleration slowed. The same defenders he once embarrassed now began catching up. Football is ruthless. It waits for no one. In 2008, Barcelona decided to rebuild. Ronaldinho left for AC Milan. It was the end of an era. In Italy, he showed flashes, moments of the old Ronaldinho, but the consistency was gone. He could still deliver genius in small doses, but he was no longer the unstoppable force of 2005. His prime had been brief, almost too brief. He eventually returned to Brazil, playing for clubs like CR Flamengo and Atlético Mineiro. He won the Copa Libertadores. Even in later years, glimpses of magic remained, but the world knew. The peak had passed. Many players win more trophies. Many score more goals. But very few make fans fall in love with the game again. Ronaldinho did that. He made football feel playful. He reminded people that it was meant to be fun. He embarrassed defenders without cruelty. He celebrated with childlike energy. He turned stadiums into stages. And perhaps that is why he is remembered differently. Not just as a champion, but as an artist. Natural talent is a gift, but it can also be dangerous. When everything comes easily, discipline becomes optional. Ronaldinho's body didn't fail him like Marco van Basten's. His decline wasn't forced by injury. It was gradual, self-inflicted, some would argue. And that is part of the tragedy. Because imagine if the joy had been matched by relentless dedication. Imagine if the peak lasted 5 more years. The numbers would have been astronomical, but perhaps he would not have been Ronaldinho. Because part of his magic came from freedom, from not being robotic, from living fully, on and off the pitch. You can measure goals, you can count trophies, but how do you measure inspiration? Every playground trick in the mid-2000s had a bit of Ronaldinho in it. Every kid trying the Elastico, every no-look pass, every smile after scoring. He influenced a generation of footballers who value expression over efficiency, and that influence remains visible today. Even after retirement, Ronaldinho remains iconic. He still appears in charity matches. He still smiles. He still dribbles past defenders for fun. And when people see him, they don't talk about decline. They talk about 2005. They talk about the Bernabeu applause. They talk about that World Cup free kick. They talk about joy. Was he the most gifted? It's impossible to measure natural talent. But if talent means ball control under pressure, creativity without fear, vision without looking, balance without effort, then Ronaldinho belongs in the conversation. He wasn't built like an athlete sculpted in a lab. He didn't train like a machine. He played like someone who loved the ball more than anything else. And maybe that's the purest form of genius. One of the most naturally gifted players the world has ever seen. That title fits Ronaldinho. But perhaps an even better description is this. He made football feel alive. He reminded us that sport can be art, that winning is important, but beauty matters too. His prime was short, his dominance brief, but in those golden years from 2003 to 2006, he reached a level that very few ever touch. And for those who witnessed it live, it felt like watching magic. Not mechanical, not calculated, just pure, unfiltered brilliance. Ronaldinho didn't just leave behind trophies. He left behind memories that still make people smile. And maybe in the end, that's greater than any statistic. Because long after the numbers fade, the feeling remains. And Ronaldinho made the world feel something every time he touched the ball.